Hello everyone, this is Muskan Malwani, your educator, trainer, speaker, blogger and owning Educreate where talent meets excellence. So today Educreate presents 20th talk show on the topic how can education reinvent, not just reopen. For this we have invited our special guest Ms. Chani Trivedi ma'am. She is a director of Nordic High International School, Indore. She is a strategist, educationist, and an HR professional who has been an integral part of adding value to the process in learning and development. She heads the HR development for Urbindo Group Indore. She has also worked as an HR professional with Tata Consultancy Services, a creative person who likes every simple thing to be done in a different way. Now, I would like to request Chani ma'am to please share her views on this topic. Over to you, ma'am.
A very important topic that we're going to talk about is how can education reinvent and not just reopen. We as parents, as educators, as schools, colleges, everybody, we are all very happy that after such a long time, after 2 years of this some turmoil or whatever you can call it, a very very bad phase that we've all gone through, we're all ready to bounce back, to open. But a very important question that we all have to ask, that we are happy to reopen, but is it enough? Or are we ready enough to reopen? So there is a very little difference between reopening and reinventing, but that difference is very important. So this is a very important topic that we're going to talk about today. That is, how can education reinvent and not just reopen? The kind of training, the kind of experience that we all had before 2 years in terms of how the educators are, the kind of trainings that educators get, the kind of resources that are required, the kind of students that are going to come. I'm talking particularly in terms of school. The little children that who are going to come to school, or who've never been to school and are going to come to the school for the first time, their requirements are going to be very very different from what they used to be 2 years back. So there's clearly a need that needs to be addressed, because these people who are going to come back after reopening are going to come back with a lot of requirements which were never there before, and it is going to come now. So that is something which we should address. We should not take it, that okay, it'll happen over a period of time. No, we have to be very, very prepared as to what are we going to address to. Because Muskan, what happens is, in a very short time, the changes happen over a period of time very very quickly, and sometimes we just get so used to those changes that it's okay, that this is how it has happened. Oh, my child watches a lot of digital media, that's how it is, because every child watches that. But there is a need that needs to be addressed over here. So let us talk about that today. I think it is a very important topic, because I as an educator, and our the whole community as an educator, our whole fraternity, we need to be prepared. So and it's not only, I'm not talking about only the infrastructure, or only, I'm talking about the mindset training, I'm talking about the attitude training, I'm talking about the requirement training of the children. So let us talk about that today.
Okay, ma'am. So I would like to ask some questions. So your first question is, like, as students are now used to of online classes, please tell us some unique ways, or how can we enlarge the interest and activeness of students mentally and physically as well?
So, see, the students are used to the online classes. I would not say that this is the best, but this is the best that we had. So instead of having nothing, at least there was something. So all thanks to this digital technology and this access that we had, a lot of people did not even have hands-on training. The very very old senior teachers, I would really want to appreciate them, because they also had access to this. But as a result of that, it's not about that, okay, this is a very bad thing, but this is what we had, so we had to adjust with it. But in that, you can't deny the fact that there was a lot of mental and physical, complacency that the children had, the parents had. Bahar nahi ja sakta, the parents are also working, they are working from home. So let's give this child a little bit of digital time. It's okay if the child watches some video or a cartoon or a movie or chats, this chatting with friends, you see, okay, that is not the, digital time, but, chatting with friends, video call with the families, everything contributes to this digital time that we have. We only see that अगर डिजिटल मीडिया पे ज्यादा रहे तो बच्चे की आंख खराब हो जाएगी. This is how we focus. Don't watch too much. More than the physical harm that it does, it also does a lot of mental harm. That is where I think the mindfulness comes into picture. We have a lot of requirements for children also, where mindfulness plays a very, very important role. Mindfulness does not mean yoga. It means being in the moment. If you see, the children are not able to focus too much on one thing because of digital distraction that we say, I would say it is lack of mindfulness. So mindfulness is a very important thing. We can achieve, again, these things cannot be totally achieved online. There has to be an offline intervention. There has to be activities done for children. There are a lot of offline activities that we as educators have created. We follow it. So, there are tips and tricks where you could, as parents also, they can actually practice these programs at these activities at home with their children. So mindfulness, so I would say, physical activities, obviously it's a must that, the child should exercise, should play outside. Even if the child is not able to play outside, do a little bit of running wherever, they can do. So physical health, yes. But a very, very important thing is the mental health. You imagine, a 3-year-old or a 1-year-old child, when the child was born, she did not understand everything. I'm talking about my daughter myself. So, she did not understand. When she started growing up, all she could see were those faces with the mask. She could not even recognize the faces. So, imagine that kind of mental stress. We don't know what the child is going through. What we assume is, itne chote bachche ko to, why will this child have a problem? So we have to understand those requirements. So from a very little child to the oldest of the person, mindfulness is very important. Mental peace is very important. Being in the moment is very important. This can be achieved through activities. This can be achieved through a little bit of research, and this can be achieved through a little bit of expert help. Like, for example, we have a school, so we as a school, we used to provide mindfulness lessons in our everyday classes to our children. It's a part of our curriculum. And this happened while we were getting trained for online classes. So one more thing, when I say, getting trained, so it's we ensure that our teachers are trained for the online classes. So हम केवल offline classes को online classes में convert कर दें, ऐसे नहीं चलता है. So there are different requirements both, and we have to address each one individually. It can't come together as a bracket.
Ma'am, here's second question. Now we are seeing the COVID situation is somehow in our control. How can we get a trust by the parents for physical classroom?
Muskan, you will be surprised to know that the parents are so enthusiastic about sending their children. So, even when our school had not started, but we got little, freedom from the government that, you can invite people. We used to conduct Saturday activities in our campus. So, parents already have that trust. I think the more responsibility lies on us as educators, that when, the parent is handing over their children to us in the school or in colleges, we have to ensure that the environment is safe, environment is healthy, environment is positive, so and child friendly, basically. So that, I think parents are already ready. They want to send their children because the children have already lost so much, not in terms of academics, but in terms of social interaction, in terms of peer interaction, in terms of collaborative learning. I talk about the Finnish way of education. We talk so much about collaboration that आप अकेले जितना सीखते हो, आप 4 लोग मिलके और ज्यादा सीखते हो. That is the kind of. But if you are working, right now, even if the children are going to school, they're eating their tiffins individually. So there are some kind of restrictions, but we as school, as educators, have a lot of responsibility now. because the way the children will, when they come back, they are going to react differently. They probably might behave the way they behave in the house, which is not acceptable somehow sometimes. But we have to give these children freedom. We have to make them bold. We have to make that kind of confidence we have to create in the children, that they're happy. In terms of parents, I don't think any parent should be, the parents are actually ready to send them to school. The confidence, if the school provides that kind of confidence, or if the college that provides that kind of confidence, that okay, you send your children, we are going to take care of them. So I think that is going to help. So it's going to be a win-win situation for both. And honestly, a building without children is nothing. So even as school, we are looking forward to have children back.
Third question, how do we assess the need of the students?
So, Muskan, I'll tell you one thing that that I've been saying that we had online education and this was the best that we had. In spite of that, uh, the children have lost a lot in terms of reading, writing, understanding concepts. So whatever they've studied, they are just studying for the exams. I think there is clearly a gap between what the student should have. So, you should not teach your children for the sake of writing exams. That is my philosophy, that is my school's philosophy, and that is the Finnish philosophy also. So, you should not ensure that, your children studies like 10 questions per day in math so that the child can write in exams. No, that should not be your agenda. So basically, we talk about actually applying whatever you've learned in your real life. That is what education is all about. Basically, you get educated so that you can actually process that education and build yourself as an individual, as a human being. And over a period of time, your foundation is so strong that you can contribute to the society also at the end of the day. But here, it disheartens me to tell you that the children, the concepts have not been, have not been transferred to the children in that way that it could have been done in a physical school. So I think the gap analysis needs to be done. So what the child has been doing, whether the child has been studying or not, and what is the child expected to have in terms of. I am not saying that पिछले 1 साल या 2 साल का बिल्कुल एक बार में आप उसको सारे concepts पढ़ा दो. But I think that foundation needs to be made stronger. Say, for example, I will again talk about my school that we are coming up with a bridge course uh, where we talk about, we call it back to school readiness program. So what we're doing is that the schools are ready to reopen, but is your child ready to come back to school? You should understand that. So in terms of academics, social, emotional, mental, all these things. So we what we've done is I'm just telling you about the practice that we've done, and it's going to help the children and the parents a lot. That 1 month we are not conducting regular classes where the course will be covered for the next year. Instead of that, the new admissions that we have, what we have done is we are brushing up all the concepts that the child had was ideally supposed to study. So pura chapter nahi, but a brush up of all the basic courses that the child, science has, social science, maths, English, writing. The writing practice needs to be done. The child is so used to writing exams with options. The Google form is made, and out of 4, 1 option has to be given. So that's not how it's going to be. The life is not going to give you options. You have to process that information in your brain, and that you have to speak out, and you have to understand basically what you study. So I think that gap needs to be filled. The gap needs to be analyzed. Again, I'll talk about the educators, what we can do in school or in colleges when they come. So when the children are going to come back, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have one-to-one interaction with the child to understand how the 2 years of the child have been, what the child has studied in these 2 years, what is something that he extremely liked, what is something that he has disliked. That kind of child counseling has to happen. After the child is counseled, after the child counseling is done, you actually understand where the child needs to go. That what will happen, a variety of children will come. So some people probably must have, understood everything and are way ahead of everybody. But there are some children who needs to be really helped with. So, you can't leave those children behind. You have to create a common platform where let us, all the children should start together. तो अब सब एक पेज पे रहेंगे. I think that class will be a different kind altogether. So, that kind of counseling we as educators are going to do with the children. We're going to make them understand. We are going to ask them what scares them most. We are going to help them with their mental health, their social interaction, with their personality development. And that is what we're going to work upon in this one particular month in April. And I think that's what the other schools should also, probably if they can, they should practice. But this is something that we need. This is, now the parents' responsibility was there when the online classes was happening. The parents had to look after their children at home, whether the child is sitting, camera to band nahi kiya hai, and all that. But now they're coming back. I think a very, very big responsibility we have as educators, because now is the time that we really need to check upon our skills as educators, that we've been following one particular style of teaching and wahi lesson plan hai, wahi sab kuch hai. No, that's not going to work. You have to give that autonomy, that creativity, that freedom to your teachers, your educators, where they can actually customize their the way of teaching according to the child's need. And this is basically finished system of education. That's how it works. So you can't say ek bacche, for every child one style of teaching is okay. No, every child has different needs, and now these needs have increased manifolds. So it's going to be different altogether now.
Question 4. How to redesign the schools for stronger relationship?
So one thing is, a very important thing is parent and teacher interaction. Secondly, I think training of the teachers. So, and third is a positive physical environment of the school. Academics will come later. So the parent and teacher communication is very important. After 2 years, when when the parents are sending children to schools or colleges or whatever, so parent will be a little skeptical about sending. 2 साल से बच्चा पूरे टाइम आंखों के सामने था, उनके सामने ही पढ़ रहा था. Suddenly, especially with the smaller children I'm talking, so they're very excited, inquisitive, a little anxious about how their child is doing. आज तो बच्चा नहीं रोया, whether my child is eaten or not, because most of the schools in Indore we provide meals. So so that kind of comfort parents have to have. So that is one thing that we as educators need to do, that comforting the parent and updating the parent. There is a difference between interference and updation. So I would not say ki ek cheez batao, because I think the child should be independent. You should not keep updating the parent about every little thing. But yes, the parent should be well informed as to how the child is performing in class, the positive things particularly, the negative things the teacher should work upon. Uh, Secondly, we also talk about the physical infrastructure. The physical infrastructure should be such that the interaction between children, like we have group seatings in our classroom, we don't have rows and columns in our classroom. So when the child interacts with each other, the way they talk, the way they behave, it's very different from how they sit when they sit alone. That is one thing. Second, thirdly, the teachers' training. Teachers' training is a very, very important aspect which is very undermined in our education industry. Uh, we get trained to get certified, which is not okay. You should get trained to understand, to learn. That is something that is very, very important. And you should upgrade yourself. So we have this refresher training for our teachers every year. You can't become obsolete. If you become obsolete, you will become useless. So, you as an educator, you should focus beyond just creating classroom lesson plans. You should talk about your observations. You should talk about the needs of the child. You should come up with the feedback. So that is something that teachers training, we as as an institute, I'm talking now, I'll talk from the management's perspective. So we as management, we should provide enough and adequate opportunities for the teachers to get trained. And when the teachers are trained, you can see that difference in their attitude, their mindset. And I'm not talking about कि अरे गूगल ट्रेनिंग कर लो, आप गूगल मीट कर लो, या ये इक्विपमेंट की ट्रेनिंग, या ये डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द एटीट्यूड एंड माइंडसेट ट्रेनिंग particularly. Because if your attitude is right, if your philosophy is right, if your mindset is right, everything else falls into place automatically. Because when you hire a teacher, they are academically well equipped, you know. They know their subject, they know their content. That is why we've hired them. But what they don't have is the attitude and mindset according to your school's requirement. That is something that you need them to be trained upon. Yeah.
As ma'am, you have told us about the teachers training, but still, I just want to ask this question: that how to prepare educators for reinventing schools?
Yes, so that's what. So now I'm going to like touch upon this in a little more depth. Uh, when we talk about, I think one thing, the teachers, the educators, they should have the autonomy. When I say autonomy, what does it mean? You know, Musan, I'm not sure how aware are you, but most schools, what they do is there is a set lesson plan. The teachers are given the resources, and the teachers are asked to follow those lesson plans in classrooms. Any deviation is not accepted. आज आपने ये सोच रखा है कि ये पढ़ाएंगे तो आप पढ़ाएंगे. Now, in this process, whether your child has understood or not, you don't know. This has happened even more in online classes. So there are times when the child goes offline, or the child is online but has put their video on, the video off, and the child is roaming around here and there. So you don't know. So as educators, we had very little in hand while they were online classes. But now when the offline classes will come, first of all, with the educators, patience is extremely important. That is something that they will have to increase many folds, because the children are going to come from a different mindset altogether. They have been pampered at home. They have been attending classes on their whims and fancies. They are used to a very bad schedule also. They're getting up late because the classes kisi ki dopahr mein ho rahi hain, kisi ki. So that kind of discipline, I would say good discipline. I don't believe in keeping the child very disciplined, because it kills their creativity to an extent. But a good discipline that they follow a particular routine. So that is not there. And now, when the children come back, educators have to be very patient with them. Educators have to understand the requirement of each child. If you talk about me personally, what I generally do, I have a book with me. So what I do is I create a page of every child, because we take just like 24 children in one class, and in online we had even lesser. So we have each child, one page for each child, and any particular striking difference that we see, that in this child is more interested in coloring, this child is high on energy but can be channelized in a different manner. So I make notes. So if that helps somebody, I think you can take that idea. Apart from that, formal training is required by the teachers. And I think one thing what we do is we always tell the teachers what to do. I think we should ask the teachers what should be done. So that is where, because they are the people who are actually in class, we as a management, or as a principal, or as an academic coordinator, we can't just keep telling them what to do. So we what I generally do is I take a meeting every Saturday, and I don't speak then much. So I ask them to talk. What are your observations? What do you think should be done? What do you think activities should be implemented? And if I have something to add on, I do. So I think let us hear from the educators, let us see from their point of view. Then, according to their needs, we should get some trainings done for them. When I say training, it can be official training, unofficial training, on the job training, hands on training, anything. Like, say, for example, we've just launched a very unique club called Kindness Club in our in our school. So what this Kindness Club does is we we become very mechanical in this digital world. So I think that essence of kindness should be there in every child. And it is a trait. It can't be, you can't teach the child ki theek hai, tum 15 saal ki ho gaye, now you should be kind. You can't say that. Kindness comes from within, from the very beginning of a person's life. So what he sees around, how he helps the people around, usse kindness, it comes gradually in your personality, in your being. So what I did was I did a training with my teachers, where I was the trainer, and we have a very very good team of teachers and principals. So I took their classes. हम लोगों ने वहाँ पे I did not teach them anything. Instead, we spoke about how kindness is important in their life and what they've done. And we spoke only good things about each other. That what are the good things that you trust me, those little things. उन्होंने मुझे मेरे बारे में कुछ ऐसी चीजें बताई which I never knew that they observed about me. So, you have to open up with your educators. You have to make them understand. You have to, the educators have to upgrade themselves academically. That goes without saying. But what I'm saying is that you have to give that kind of freedom to the educators, where you listen to them, where you let them do what they want. Obviously, you keep a track of what they're doing, but I think that that kind of freedom should be there with the educators.
Last question, ma'am. What do you think? Do we need to expand learning time?
What do you mean when you say we want to expand the learning time? You mean in terms of the time in school, or what does that mean particularly?
Timing in school and as well as in the coaching classes and everywhere, we should give a lot of time to the students, just because they have faced this corona times, and they get enough learning, but still their concept is not cleared, and they are like just doing rectification for the exams. So do we need extra time for the learning?
I think we've moved beyond where the number of hours actually mattered. So I don't believe in extending the learning time. I believe in realizing where the child needs help. So if the child needs help beyond classroom, give him that. But if you are extending the learning time, you are basically creating pressure and stress on the child. And coaching, to each his own. But what I feel is you should actually, the child should be given enough help. So it can be individual, it can be in groups, it can be offline, it can be through worksheets, it can be within class. But just with extending learning time, I don't think that that really is a solution to all this. Because in fact I would want that we should take baby steps, क्योंकि अभी learning time इतना कम हो गया है. So let us not like bombard them with all the learning altogether. Let's take one step at a time. आप पहले 3 घंटे का रखो, then move it to 4 hours, and then whatever school time is okay. In that also give them a lot of time for physical activities and emotional. Muskan, if you ask me, academics will be taken care of. I think it's the skills and the mindset and the emotional health and the mental health that needs to be taken care of even more than academics. Obviously, academics do matter. And when I say academics do matter, I'll tell you one thing that when we talk about the back to school program that we have, that we are going to do, one research shows that if the child does not ask question in the first class and in the second class, the child is behind the rest of the children, and the child is never able to catch up. So that one question in the first class really matters. You have to ensure that the child is clear in his concepts in the first class. So, that kind of attention needs to be given to the child. I think it is now not about the extent in timing, but more about personalized help to the children, where their academic concepts needs to be brushed up, where if their academic concepts are brushed up, they will be very confident about entering their new session in class. That is my guarantee. आप बच्चे को घबराहट ही नहीं होगी कि पता नहीं टीचर ऐसा क्या पढ़ाएगी जो मुझे समझ में नहीं आएगी, because the child is confident that, oh, I know my subject, and I know as much as the other person knows, so there is no competition. So the child is comfortable in that whole scenario. So I think that needs to be taken care of. Only extending of timing won't help.
So it is really uh, we are having a good learning. Like as you spoke, so many things which we have to take in our classrooms also. And yes, it's time to back to school for kids. And at last, Chani ma'am, thank you so much for giving your precious time and giving us so many suggestions so that we can do in our physical classrooms. I want you to conclude this session in 2 to 3 lines.
So, Muskan, I always feel very happy when I'm able to, contribute very little, as much as I can. But even if whatever I've said today, if a little can be taken back and can be worked upon by the parents or by the educators, I think that makes this talk a success. So. A lot of so the most things that I've spoken to you about, actually we are practicing it in our school, and also I practice a lot in my real life. So everything that I've spoken today is out of experience and now not out of some paper that I have prepared. So I think as an educator you should you have a very very big responsibility as an educator, and even more so when the children are coming after such a long time. So I think it is time for parents, for educators, for school, and for children to reinvent themselves. Come back with double the energy, come back with double the enthusiasm, and we should be so prepared in the time to come that we actually can make a difference, and all this 2 year loss really shouldn't matter over a period of time, and the child should be able to lead a very very normal life. So that's what my wish for everybody is. And thank you for having me over, and it was indeed a very very good discussion.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks a lot, Muska.